welcome to the CNBC TV18 Mumbai News Studio. I'm Ekta Batra and you're watching Your Stocks this Friday afternoon. Well, it's turning out to be a session which is a little consolidatory, you'd have to say, for the financials as well as the Nifty. But we have the mid-cap index which is doing better. So we have the mid-cap index which is up around 0.6% and the advanced decline ratio which has managed to maintain on the positive side through the trading session. Joining us this afternoon, we have Vaishali Parekh, who's the head of tech research at Prabhudas, Lilladher, and Shahina Mukadam, independent market expert, to answer all of your stock queries. Shahina as well as Vaishali, welcome to the show. Well, Vaishali, before we kick off with the queries, just wanted your thoughts in terms of the trend that you're seeing for the markets. How would you probably close your positions ahead of next week?
Very good afternoon to all of you. Yes, market is on a positive note. I mean, after what we saw yesterday, that Nifty was showing some volatility, but we are back on track. So 21,900 acts as a crucial support, and we would be now looking for a target of 22,500 to 22,600. And Bank Nifty also, we need Bank Nifty to move past 47,200, 300 levels for a decisive move higher. So view is positive in both these indices.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get in some queries now. We have SK Datta, who writes to us from New Delhi. He holds 3,500 shares of PNB, which is procured 5 years ago at 56 rupees per share. And he wants to know what to do. At what price should he probably look to book his profits? Well, strong run-up is what we've seen in the stock for PNB, and sitting on a profit for Mr. Datta at this point. Let's start with the fundamentals, Shahina. What would you recommend in terms of the fundamentals for PNB? Do you think it has more to go just based on the valuations?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, actually the stock has run up, as you mentioned, but this is on back of excellent numbers that they showed in the Q3. And if you look at valuations, it is still around little slightly lower than 1.5 times book, current price. So this does give you slight upside, little bit of upside still possible. And over a 1 year period, I think with numbers improving further, because the book has improved, you've had net NPA now below 1. So I think there is potential for this stock to actually give you another 10 to 15% upside from here in the medium to longer term. So I would suggest a hold.
Okay, all right. And Vaishali, what would you do in terms of the technicals?
Well, I would say, of course, the trend is very bullish, but well, in a more volatile market like this, I think it's always better to keep a trailing stop loss. So 120 would act as a near-term stop loss and continue for a target of 140 to 150. So I would say hold with a disciplined trading strategy for now.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get in another query now. We have Himanshu Thakkar, who writes to us from Delhi. He holds 250 shares of Vedanta, which he's bought at 360, and 300 shares of Hindustan Zinc, which he's bought at 360 as well. So he's sitting on a loss when it comes to Vedanta, and he has been holding both of these stocks since the past year and a half. He wants to know what to do, whether he should hold or sell. So both these stocks are not doing well for him within the metal space. Well, Vaishali, what would you recommend on the technicals? Do you think that there's any kind of upside on any of these counters?
I would say Vedanta actually has got into a trend. So as long as 255, 260 levels are held on as a support, I think a bounce can be expected. And for a reconfirmation, wait for this stock to move past 290 levels. And maybe in all likelihood, he will get his buy price around 300, 320. From there, we can have a relook whether he needs to hold or whether he can book profit. And the other one you asked me is?
Hindustan Zinc.
Yeah, so Hindustan Zinc, of course, I think for a long-term perspective, is he holding? I think he should continue holding. It will give him good returns from here.
Okay, all right. And would you have a view on this one, Shahina, on this metals basket? Anything that you would probably switch over to as well?
Well, see, Hindustan Zinc, he can continue to hold with valuations about 6 times 1 year forward. There is a medium to longer term upside. But for Vedanta, I think he needs to switch because there's a lot happening both on the domestic as well as international front. While there are fundraising, what the company is doing on the global basis, which they may reduce the dependence on funds coming from India, from the Indian Vedanta India. I think Vedanta India itself, there's so much of talk of restructuring, splitting the company, depending into the products. So I think there's a lot going on for a retail investor. So he should switch. I mean, there are other stocks that you can switch to similar in the metal space. You could look at a Hindalco where again there's a lot happening, or there may be a Tata Steel, which the valuations are pretty decent.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get in another question now. Prem Mariwala writes to us from Mumbai, holds 55 shares of Larsen and Toubro, which is bought at an average price of around 3,458. So he's sitting on a mild loss there, and was purchased on Jan 31st, 2024. He wants to know what to do, whether he should hold on to these shares since the prices have fallen. Well, we don't know whether he's how comfortable he would be in terms of holding on to these shares. But do you think that maybe one should probably see this through on a longer term basis, Vaishali?
Yes, actually, it is a buying opportunity at these levels because 3,200 level acts as a very crucial support. We've seen the stock consolidating post its result at these levels, and now it's attempting for a bounce back. So I would say that he can in fact buy at these levels, add more, because once we see this move past of 3,500 levels, I think it's back on track for higher targets. So it's a positive view from my side.
Okay,
all right. And what about you, Shahina?
See, for the shorter term investor, he has suffered some loss back of the Q3 numbers, which were pretty disappointing. Having said that, I think valuations, if you look at the longer term, 20 times its FY20, FY25 valuation and P of 30, order book of 4,70,000 crores. For the longer term investor, one can continue to hold.
Okay, all right. That's on Larsen and Toubro. Long term, you could probably continue to hold. We have Sharat Shroff, who writes to us from Kolkata. He holds 1 lakh shares of Yes Bank, which is bought at 28.7. Wants to know what to do with his current holding. He's just about sitting on a loss at this point. Well, tough to take a call on a couple of these banks and how they would probably pan out on a year-to-date basis. But Shahina, what is your sense in terms of Yes Bank, the kind of recovery process that they've been undertaking?
Well, the Q3 numbers were excellent. And on back of that, I would suggest that he continues to hold. But of course, keep a stop loss, because these are volatile stocks, maybe something like a 25 rupees stop loss, which will protect his profits also to some extent. You have HDFC Bank, which has taken approval to add stock. You have certain other deals that are happening, in the shorter term. So I would continue to hold, given the fact that actual core performance is also improving.
Okay, all right. And on the technicals, Vaishali?
I would say technically also it had shown a lot of promise with a support of 24 to 25. That was a breakout level on the weekly chart. So my view would be to keep a stop loss of 23 and keep riding this stock, because once we see some conviction above 28, 29 levels, I think it can reach as 33 and perhaps go higher. So for now, the view is positive with a stop loss of 23.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get in another question now. We have Vinod, who writes to us from Hyderabad. He holds 20,000 units of SJVN, which he's bought at around 100 odd rupees. So he's sitting on a good profit there. He wants to know what to do, whether he should hold or sell this particular counter. SJVN, would you have a view, Shahina, on this one?
I would say he should take his profits, book his profits, and look to re-enter at some other time, maybe a couple of months down the line. If you saw the third quarter numbers, the revenue was lower, but the profit was substantially lower, almost by about 50% plus. Now, the main thing is that they have had lower revenue from operations from their hydro plants. And this is likely to continue over the next couple of months. So I see the stock consolidating at lower levels. He can relook at it after a couple of months, because definitely there is a lot of potential for the medium to longer term, because the government is investing a lot of money in hydro projects in green energy. So I think to that extent, he can look to re-add at a later stage.
Okay, all right. That's the view on SGVN. Well, we need to take a break with the news that the markets are just about consolidating. It's a quiet day. We have the mid-caps which are doing better. Stocks such as Vodafone have come off the day's high, so that stock is now up around 7.5%. But a couple of other stocks such as Geo Financial Services continues to do well, so that stock is up around 10% at this point in time. Standard disclosure, Reliance does own the channel that you're watching. And separately, a couple of other stocks such as RealTel continue to surge ahead. That stock up around 6%. We'll take a break, answer more queries on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Your Stocks this Friday afternoon. We have with us Shahina as well as Vaishali to answer all of your stock queries. Let's get in another question now. We have KS Rao who writes to us from Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. He holds 200 shares of Rain Industries, which he's bought at 70 odd rupees. He's a long-term investor and wants to know what to do, whether he can hold these shares for a period of 1 year or not. So, well, sitting on a profit at this point in time, 1 year horizon. Vaishali, you go first on this.
I think it has got into a good, strong trend. And I believe today the results are also going to be out. But, well, I would say it's being in a good, strong trend. He should continue holding, because now when I'm looking at the weekly chart, I think even on a weekly chart, it's given a breakout above 188. In all possibility, the stock will go towards 250 to 280 levels. So it's a hold for now for higher targets.
Okay, and what about you, Shahina?
I would suggest partly booking of profits because while you've had coking coal, the prices have stabilized, but at the same time, a lot of it has been factored, in my view, into the stock price currently, which has rallied a lot in the last couple of months. Going forward, I think there is an issue regarding the high debt. So I would actually suggest that he takes some money off the table and then can, sort of hold the rest and see how it works out.
Okay, all right. So that's on Rain Industries. Well, Pankaj now writes to us from Hyderabad. He holds 250 shares of ONGC, which he's bought at around 250 rupees as well. So he's just about sitting on a profit there. He wants to know what to do, whether he should sell or continue to remain invested in this particular counter. Well, Shahina, what would you recommend on ONGC? Would it be a play probably ahead of the elections as well?
Yeah, I think he can continue to hold. The numbers were actually, the profits were low, but the thing is, it was more or less in line with what was expected. And I think with crude oil remaining in the range of, 75 to 85, ONGC could do better going forward. They are trying to improve the production, trying to, rectify the issues that were surrounding the lower production, actually, which resulted in the lower numbers in the third quarter. I think it's a pretty strong PSU, and investor can continue holding for the medium to longer term.
Okay, all right. And Vaishali, what about you on this one?
Well, I would agree with China, because even technically the chart is very strong. But having said that, since the market is at its all-time high, it's always prudent to keep a stop loss. So, well, the near-term support level lies at around 269. So, if these levels break, then there could be some profit booking. So, he can make his trade accordingly. Otherwise, continue holding. We are looking at a trading target of 300 to 320 from here on.
Okay, all right. 300 to 320 in terms of a trading target for ONGC. Let's get in another question now. Umesh Gupta writes to us from Vadodara. He has 100 shares of KIOCL, which he's bought at around 372 odd rupees. So he's sitting on a good profit there. Wants to know what to do, whether he should hold or sell this particular counter. Any upside on the technicals here?
I think, yes, there is a good uptrend, and I think this stock is likely to retest 550. I think just some days back it had made a high of 577. It's currently at 0.01. So I think it is still showing strength and it can retest these previous highs.
Okay, all right. And Shahina, would you have a recommendation on the fundamentals?
Well, I don't see too much of correlation between the fundamentals and the stock price. The government holds a major stake, so I think that is actually driving the stock price the way it is. And there continues to be buying coming into the stock, but I don't see, the valuations are extremely stretched. So really speaking, it's more of a technical call than a fundamental call.
Okay, all right. More of a technical versus a fundamental call. Hil Patel now writes to us from Gujarat, holds 930 shares of HFCL, which is at around 30 rupees per share, wants to know what to do, whether to hold or sell this particular counter. Sitting on a very good profit on this one. What would you recommend at this point, Shahina? Do you look at the stock?
Well, I would recommend to book profits. While they are getting a lot of orders, the order book is close to, I think, now 16,000 crores. But I think the order book is something like 8,000 crores, but the market cap is 16,000 crores. So I think a lot of the upside is capped into the current price, and I would actually take the profits off the table.
Okay, and Vaishali, what about you?
I would say since the trend is still strong, I would say hold with a technical, trading stop loss, because this stock is ready for a target of 120 to 140. So trading stop loss, hold the stock. In fact, I would rather say buy in decline, keep adding in decline, because the stock is showing a lot of strength and upside potential. So 120 would be the near-term target, and then 140.
Okay, all right. 120 is the near-term target and then eventually 140. So that's a bullish call coming in on the technicals there. Well, Vaishali as well as Shahina, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining in and taking us through all of the queries that we have. And before we wrap, world leaders and business honchos will be jetting to Jamnagar for the pre-wedding celebrations of Ambani's Kayan, Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant, which is scheduled for early March. The wedding is set to take place on the 12th of July. Invitations have been sent out not only to the who's who of the corporate world, but to several heads of state. Some of these names include Qatar's Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, the King and Queen of Bhutan. A bevy of former heads of states will also be in attendance. This includes the former Prime Ministers of Sweden, Australia, Canada, and also the former President of Bolivia. Ivanka Trump, the former advisor to the President of the United States, and Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum are also on the list of attendees. Also on the long list of guests, which will make this the single biggest gathering of VIPs in India outside of the G20, are BlackRock's Larry Fink and Rob Goldstein, General Atlantic's Bill Ford, and Brookfield's Anuj Ranjan. Khaldun Al-Mubarak of Mubdala and Joe Bay of KKR are also expected to fly down to Jamnagar for the celebrations. All right, on that note, that's all the time that we have on the show. But do remember to email us all of your queries. We'll address them with our experts. Stay tuned.